Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Some Virginia school children are learning to garden without soil. We have tips to protect your plants from early spring freezes. And we'll learn more about how weather conditions affect almost everything on the farm.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Carlton and Calhoun Farm in King and Queen County. School-aged children are learning how easy and fun it can be to grow food and other plants with hydroponic units. Burke Moeller reports on a growing trend in Virginia classrooms.
Students at 2 Western Virginia schools are the latest to dip into raising their own food in a water-based environment. 4th graders at Virginia Heights Elementary School in Roanoke received a hydroponics kit recently from Virginia's Agriculture in the Classroom program to celebrate the program's 30th anniversary. The kit, plus a related curriculum and free lesson plans, are worth about $1,000, and educators are already making plans for how to use it.
We are going to first start with something that's kind of easy for them so they can see it and see it quickly. So we're going to start probably with lettuce so they can watch it grow from a seedling on up. And then later on we'll venture onto something that has flowers.
But first, kids get to unpack the kit and put it together. Ag in the Classroom Executive Director Tammy Maxey says that's another learning opportunity.
The first activity is for the students to understand following directions and assembling a task. This allows certain students to really thrive. Those who are mechanically inclined really thrive on putting that unit together for the first time. And then after they put it together, they have to learn how it functions. It functions with water and nutrients rather than soil. And then they begin to plant their first crop.
Hydroponic gardens use water to supply the nutrients plants need. They're also not as messy as working with soil, and when elementary and middle school students are involved, that can be a big plus for educators. Hydroponics can be an important option in urban schools where there may not be enough land to plant a traditional garden. Even though water is the primary ingredient in hydroponic gardens, the systems actually use less water than they would if they were growing plants in soil. This method has even been used to grow plants in space.
This is an example of the future of agriculture as more agricultural businesses are looking for ways to grow things on smaller spaces of land. So if you're using something that you're putting on a rooftop, something that you're using in a greenhouse, that again, you have a little bit more confined space that then you're going to continue to grow that plant. And the students are learning the beginnings of those skills. Some of the students will take those skills and it will become something that interests them in a career. Other, it will just interest them in becoming a home gardener.
When assembled, the hydroponics kit should look something like this. At Benjamin Franklin Middle School in Franklin County, Jennifer Hatch used her examples of hydroponics in education to win the 2023 Virginia Agriculture in the Classroom Teacher of the Year Award. Hatch's 7th grade math students learned how to take what they've learned from her and make something grow.
Everything we do is math, from the germinating of the seeds to the projective growth to comparative of the growth. You can put that on like a scatter plot to see, does it correlate or not. We've done all sorts of, we've obviously measured, we cooked, so we had to change and adjust the recipes. We have to check the pH levels, then we have to make adjustments.
The Ag in the Classroom program has helped meet teachers' needs by providing plenty of online resources at va.agclassroom.org. There's also a Virginia Ag in the Classroom Facebook page and a Virginia Ag in the Classroom YouTube channel that features virtual field trips. Children can go on these trips with their families or their teachers or by themselves and learn how agriculture impacts their lives. The lessons they learn in the classroom or on field trips can also be applied at home.
I learned about that you can grow plants in water using a solar light that's plugged into the wall, and I learned that you can do this at home too. And she taught us with a book how we can do it at home and we can learn by ourselves. And she gave us a book that has all the stuff that we have to put in it, and there's like there's stuff that sucks up the water and the roots go down through it, and that's how the water gets up into the plant.
For one student, the opportunity to learn with Miss Hatch has been the reason to come to school.
I don't really like school. My favorite subject is math, but normally I don't like to come to school to do it. But now I'm happy to be able to come to school, to want to go to her class. And I wish we were in elementary school and she was my teacher, and so I could just stay with her the whole day instead.
Hearing you say that, Nick, is the greatest award. It's better than the plaque. Hearing that you guys want to come to school and you want to learn and that you listen and that you're taking what we're saying and growing with it, that's, to me, better than this award. So your words and what you guys have said actually mean more to me than that banner and piece of wood.
For 3 decades, Ag in the Classroom programs have been working to put students in a position to learn where their food comes from and how it's made, and perhaps plant a seed for some who may want to pursue agriculture when they get older. In Rocky Mount, Virginia, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
Agriculture in the classroom programs have been around almost a century. As America's farm population began to shrink in the 1920s and 1930s, farm leaders began to be concerned that without personal experience, future generations wouldn't understand the unique challenges farmers face. In the 1960s, some industry leaders began producing educational content featuring agricultural themes. But it wasn't until 1981 that a national program to standardize Ag in the Classroom took root in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Today, there are Ag in the Classroom programs in every state and territory in the nation, all with the goal of enhancing school curriculums.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about how to protect some of your tender plants from cold weather. Stay with us.
We're stronger together, especially at this difficult time. For over 90 years, we've watched our membership grow, and we're honored to be part of such a special community. Thank you to the farmers who provide for us every day. Virginia Farm Bureau is proud to serve our members, their families, and to give back to our local communities. That's the Farm Bureau way.
It's not unusual to have early spring freezes in Virginia. Mark Viette shows us how to protect tender plants from frost damage. In the Garden.
Probably the thing that affects the plants or our garden plants or container plants the most is the great fluctuations in temperature. Could be you've got warm weather, then really cold weather, warm weather, and really cold weather. There are some things that you can do to help protect your plants, especially tender plants, plants that might grow in more tropical areas. But here is a plant, guess what? I forgot to protect this plant. And as you see, it's dead now. It completely froze. So, one of the things that you can do is cover some of your plants. When you cover the plants, that sort of moderates the temperature. Now remember, heat rises. So in some cases, when you cover your plants, you might need to use crates like I've got right here. So when the cloth or whatever you're using to protect your plants, it's up above the plants and the heat rises. And so what I'm doing here, one of my favorite plants is the Salvia Black and Blue. It'll do great in Richmond, Virginia Beach, and some of your warmer areas, but in the Shenandoah Valley, up and down the Appalachians, all the way to York, Pennsylvania, it may freeze. So what I do is I take, and this is a special heavy cloth, and I cover this. Now, ideally, you're going to want to do this maybe the end of December before real cold weather sets in, and then you're going to want to take this off after the threat of freezes, which might be mid-April or somewhere along that time. Let's go take a look at how to protect some flowering plants from frosts and freezes. There are some simple ways to protect some of your plants that may come into bloom when we have warm weather, or early flowering things like flowering almonds, or you might have a dwarf peach that needs protection when we're going to get cold or freezing temperatures. Just to show you here, this is jasmine, and some of these flowers froze, you can see right here, and this is what it normally looks like. If you're going to get a real cold spell, you can protect these things. It's always good to have space above what I'm going to put as protection for this jasmine, and it's great to have old sheets. Sometimes it takes two people, but what you're going to do is stretch sheets above, and it's always great to have maybe king-size sheets, but again, you want to have some space above what you're dealing with. And sometimes I even will find inexpensive quilts. You can go to some of these salvage places and get these quilts, and that's great to cover your plants. Now, if it's going to get real cold, and let's say you've got a dwarf peach tree, one thing that you can do, and always make sure you use outdoor cords, everything that's rated for the outdoors, but you can go ahead and put a lamp, and you got to use an incandescent bulb, not the new LED bulbs. These are the ones that give off heat. And so I'm going to put this in here, and it's going to heat up this whole area and help protect your plants. So it's a simple way. You can also do this with your container plants. And again, cover them, and you can put a light bulb if need be, and it'll help your plants and protect them from freezing, or and allow them to flower maybe in a couple weeks. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Coming up on Heart of the Home, candied bacon ice cream. We hope you'll stay with us.
Our cow, she walks into the barn, she gets milked. Milk's taken from her and put through a chiller. And that milk's taken from body temperature of a cow, which is about 102.5, and dropped to 35 degrees and put straight onto a tractor trailer. And it goes straight to the plant the next day. So most of the milk that's sitting on your store shelves is probably less than 48 hours old. And that's a pretty good testament to how efficient we are.
National Ice Cream Month isn't until July, but any time is a good time for this dairy treat. Chef Tammy Brawley shares a recipe for a homemade candied bacon ice cream from the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. Welcome to Heart of the Home. Today I'm going to show you how to use some of Virginia's finest pork products. And yes, we are going to incorporate it into some delicious ice cream. We've got some bacon strips laying on an aluminum foil sheet tray, and my oven has been preheated to 400 degrees. I'm going to take a little bit of brown sugar. You can use dark or light, it doesn't really matter. You just want to sprinkle a little brown sugar on each strip. It needs to be in the oven for about 15 minutes or so total, but we're going to flip the bacon about halfway through that cooking time. All All right, so we're going to pop this in a 400-degree oven for about 8 minutes, then we're going to flip them, and then they'll cook another 8 minutes. It's actually dark mainly because of the sugar. We're going to put the bacon off of the hot tray onto a rack to let it cool. It's also going to be crispier when you let it cook like this and get it a little bit more done, which is what you're looking for this recipe. You have a small saucepan. We have our burner on just basically a warm. We're going to start out with a tablespoon and a half of butter. Now your recipe calls for adding salted butter. As a chef, most of us, if not all of us, do not use salted butter. So to that butter, I'm actually going to add just a small sprinkle of a smoked bacon sea salt. Just a little bit, not very much. The enhancement there being that it was smoked with bacon, and we're going to put bacon in the ice cream, and then it adds the salt nature that the recipe calls for. To the custard, or to the butter mixture, I should say, excuse me, we're going to actually add 6 tablespoons of dark brown sugar. And we're going to go ahead and add half of the required amount of half and half. It's going to start thickening, but it's going to thicken even further when we add our egg yolks. Virginia is home to about 375 dairy farms. They are constantly working to give us some nice product. We definitely want to make sure we support them. A little warm. You don't want it to be too warm because we're getting ready to incorporate the egg yolks. We've got egg yolks waiting on the side here. We're going to whisk those up. Now we're going to temper. Temper means bring the temperature of one thing up to the temperature of the other. So cold egg yolks and a hot cream is going to curdle the eggs. So you actually want to just pour a little bit into the egg yolks. Let that go back on your burner. Whisk up the egg yolks with a little bit of that cream mixture. And you want to go back into the pot with it. And then you have no danger of scrambling your egg. Whisk that up very well together. Now with this on a low here, it's going to start to really thicken up more, which is what we want. So while that is thickening, we're actually going to go ahead and add a little bit more cream to a measure. What's going to happen is we're going to add the egg mixture and the sugar to the remaining cream, and then we're going to add a little bit of vanilla extract and a secret ingredient we'll call. So at this point I'm going to turn my heat off. I want to use a fine mesh strainer here. Now, why in the world would I use a strainer? I love to tell people this. If you ever have a recipe that calls for straining, it's actually a very important step, or that calls for straining with eggs. You know, when you crack an egg or you separate an egg, you always have those little bits and pieces. You want to strain your mixtures to not have that in your final product. So we're going to pour it into the measure with the heavy cream on the half and half, excuse me, on the bottom there. And what's also happening at this point, in addition to straining, is we are actually cooling the mixture with that cold cream on the bottom there. And what's going to happen, you're about to see what I was talking about, the importance of straining, is what is left inside this strainer are those little cooked bits of egg that we don't want in our mixture. And now what we want is we want to whisk up the extra half and half and the egg and sugar mixture and the butter. And now we want to add about a half a teaspoon or so of vanilla extract. And you might have remember I said something about a secret ingredient. Well, Virginia is home also to some delicious liquors, and we have some Virginia rum here that we're going to add to our recipe. So now what you want to do is you want to chill this mixture. And then when it's ready and nice and chilled, we're going to come back and run it through a ice cream maker. So here we have our bacon. I had started chopping it. We're going to finish chopping it into bits and pieces here. We have our chilled ice cream based mixture, and we're going to put the bacon into it and stir it up. We have this wonderful little Cuisinart ice cream maker here that we're going to use. The bowl itself does need to be kept in the freezer. We're going to turn that on. As soon as we plug it in, we're going to stir in those bacon bits. And now we're going to pour it into the frozen ice cream bowl and let this ice cream maker do its trick, do its thing. And the churning is going to take about 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to turn that off. I'm going to check our thickness of it. At this point, it could be more of a soft serve, which is totally fine. It's actually very edible. I've already tasted it. But you could always let it thicken longer if you wanted the ice cream maker to go longer. And once you put it into a sealed container back into the freezer, tomorrow it will be perfectly firm. But we're going to go ahead, mainly because we're anxious to taste this, we're going to go ahead and put some in a cup there with an ice cream scoop. All right, and there you have it, candied bacon ice cream, another way to enjoy delicious Virginia pork. I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. We hope you'll join us again on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com/recipes, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website at greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Ice cream as we know it arrived in the New World in 1744. It was popular with the Founding Fathers. A New York merchant has records of George Washington spending $200 on ice cream during the summer of 1790. By 1851, ice cream manufacturing processes had improved to the point that the dairy treat was affordable to almost everyone. Ice cream parlors came into and out of style over the next century. Today, most ice cream is consumed at home. Some dairy farmers in Virginia have tried to increase their profits by creating their own local lines of ice cream and other products.
It's a pretty day in Virginia right now, but just a few days ago we had a soaking rain. Weather information is interesting to all of us, but Barry Ridgway reports it's vital to Virginia farmers.
There's an old saying, everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Mark Twain may or may not have said it first, but for sure, following the weather is important to just about everyone. For a child waiting for the school bus, a surfer ready to catch some waves, or a sunbather just hanging out at the pool, we all rely on the weather. But there's probably no one who needs reliable, accurate local weather information like our farmers. It can be the difference between success and failure.
It's really important to be able to provide local weather conditions because weather varies from field to field. We might get 2 inches of rain here, we might get 5/10 at our other location, and they're a mile apart. So that type of information is very critical to growers. It can't be generalized for a big region. It's very specific. It helps growers be able to make decisions on their crops.
Dr. David Lanston, a plant pathologist and researcher with Virginia Tech's Tidewater Agricultural Research and Extension Center, says weather conditions can foster major crop diseases or pest problems.
I tell growers or advise growers on the options that they have to manage diseases and nematodes. Leaf wetness, relative humidity, and the duration of wetness is really critical for fungal pathogens to be able to infect and spread in the crops that they affect.
Lifelong farmer Roger Calhoun of Carlton and Calhoun Farms grows corn, soybeans, and winter wheat. And as a weather enthusiast, he has collected weather data at his farm in King and Queen County, Virginia for nearly 35 years.
Well, it started all originally just curiosity, young fellow out of high school, curious about so many things. But it all started with just a simple little funnel gauge. I started writing it down, and I just kept up with it. I've got 33 years of data now. I can go back and tell you when it rained, how much it rained, snowed.
Calhoun says annual rainfall totals in his area of Virginia have increased in recent decades, from around 40 inches per year 33 years ago to almost 46 inches per year. He still uses that funnel gauge, but he's added a digital gauge to his weather gear.
I kind of compared the two, which most times are very, very accurate, close, other than maybe with a thunderstorm where we get wind-blown rain. That tends to read a little low on the funnel gauge side of it.
But as important as getting enough rain is, the timing of that rain is also critical.
A lot of times the rain events that are good for one crop are not necessarily good for another. So we might have rain events in June and July that might be great for corn, but those very rains could impact the emergence of soybean seed that have just been planted in our late planted soybean crop. So we could get reduced stands from that.
Last year was dead on the money by my average numbers, but the bean yield got cut because it didn't rain in the latter part of August and early part of September, and they couldn't quite finish out. Beans were small, they were lightweight, and but the corn prior to that was one of the best corn years I've ever had.
In addition to normal rainfall, Calhoun also records information about major weather events that have affected his farm and the surrounding area.
Hurricane Isabel was one of the worst I'd ever seen in my lifetime with wind damage here locally. There was a Hurricane Floyd, I think in '99. It rained 16.8 inches of rain in a 24-hour span. That's the most rain recorded in my 33 years of data in 24 hours. Hurricane Michael ended up costing me $80,000 in repairs to the damage underneath of the bridge to my farm driveway. As you can see, I've recorded a lot of events over the years. Anybody has a question about when so-and-so happened, I can go back and tell them when it happened.
Climatologists prefer weather records from rural areas because average temperatures skew higher in urban centers due to all the concrete and asphalt. Calhoun's 33 years of data may have started as a hobby, but Lanston explains long weather records can help predict future growing seasons.
Well, I think it would be very valuable in that location, but certainly if we had that weather data in several other local locations, it would be very valuable. We could actually use that data to make predictive models.
Virginia Tech and other universities partner to provide specific on-site weather conditions to growers in a number of ways. During the growing season, Virginia peanut growers can call a toll-free number for a specific forecast or check online.
We deliver the forecast on the internet, on our Peanut Cotton Infonet, so that's available daily. With the frost advisory, the peanut hotline tends to ring a lot when growers are digging peanut.
There's a remote access weather station on each of the Virginia Agricultural Research and Extension Centers around the state. With the AREC WeatherStem phone app, anyone can access climate data like rainfall amounts and intensity, up-to-the-minute conditions, and 5-day forecasts. Information like that can really make a difference to a farmer, whether or not they have decades of weather data like the Calhoun family. In King and Queen County, Virginia, this is Barry Ridgway reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.